Hi guys, welcome to this video. I'm showing how to get the best out of Vireio, how to use the various features we've developed over the past 6-9 months or so. So before we get in, I'm just going to clear these messages off the screen. The first one is wanting to calibrate our initial position, so I'm going to click the Shift and R key to get rid of that. Now on some games you're going to get this message up straight away, just depends on the game, the engine, what it's doing. I've seen some people that they try and navigate around the menus while that's still up. No real reason to do that. All you need to do is hit the numpad 8 to get rid of this. You can still run the scan later. It's not going to affect anything. It's just going to get rid of this message. So I'm going to hit numpad 8 and that's going to disappear from the screen. Right, we're in on Borderlands. Now the first thing I do on any game is I want to make sure that it's appearing correctly. Every game on Vireio has its own profile, so the settings are unique to that game. So it may need, even though you've set this up on Skyrim, you may need to do it again on Borderlands. So I'm going to hit the Control and Q key to get into the Vireio menu. And the first thing I always check out is in overall settings is going to be the distortion scale. Just a note on this one, you'll notice that there's a couple of ways you can actually get into the menus on the settings. The first is to hit the enter key. The problem with that is if I'm in a menu in game, as you can see the Borderlands menu behind, if I hit it, it's going to load that menu as well. So instead of doing that, what I can do is just hit the right shift button. If I hit the right shift button, the Vireio Perception menu goes in, but I'm not hitting things in the background. So distortion scale, the first thing I want to make sure is that all of the edges of the screen are taken up by the view. And you'll see if I can adjust this left and right, that's actually altering it. So each person is going to have its own individual preference for this, especially when it comes down to if you're using the B cups in your DK2 or the A cups. For me, it's usually about 75.75. So I put that to there, and I want to make sure that I don't see any borders in the rift, top or bottom, left or right, which looks about right. That's the first thing I do. You don't need to worry about saving this, it saves as it goes. I can just hit Control and Q again, and that will be saved, so next time it will remember that setting. The other thing that sometimes happens is you get a border at the top or the bottom, but not both. And this tends to be because it's slightly offset the screen in the DK2. So what you can do on that is you can do it through the menu, the Y offset, or you can do it by the hotkey, which is Control, Tab, and then the mouse wheel. As you can see, I can move the screen up and down here. So that, so usually for me, you tend to find on every game, it's about minus 0.03. That's probably our fault, but you can alter that one so then you don't see the border at the top or the bottom, and that's all sorted out. Right, the next thing you want to head into is setting up the GUIs in game, your heads-up display. And the way I tend to do that, again, right at the start, before I've even got into the game, I'm looking at the menus, looking at the different sizes, what's readable and what's not. So back into our menu, each game will either have a HUD calibration or a GUI calibration. It tends not to be both, so very rarely that happens. It's just one or the other. In Borderlands, the original Borderlands, it's the GUI calibration. I can test that if I change the values. You see the menu changes sizes. So what I want to do here is there's 4 different profiles, which if I go into GUI calibration, I've got default, small, large, and full. Default is what's loaded automatically, the first one. It doesn't have to be full. So generally I set that to what's most usable, what's visible in the rift. So that tends to be, it really does change per game, but let's set it to about 0.6. That's nice and viewable. I then have a setting which is small, which I tend to use for when I'm in the game. I'm not in a menu, but I want to see the crosshairs. I want to see my health. I want to see my armor within the rift on the edges of the screen. So I keep that nice and small. Again, you can edit this as you like. And then the large, you want, if a menu's got a lot of text on it, if it's too small it may be hard to read, so we have a large one, and I'll show how we can use that later. and full always stays at 1 being the full. So that looks about right. And then what I do is I just set a hotkey that in game I can quickly flip between all of those. So if I go to the hotkey switch, I've already got this set this up as the divide key on the numpad. That's the one I like using, so it's nice how the way it tends not to be used for anything else. But what you do here is just hit the right shift key and it's prompting me for a desired key. Now this, you can put anything on the keyboard, it can also be on the gamepad. So if I wanted to map that to something on the gamepad, it's useful, I don't need to be near my keypad at all. I'm going to keep with the divide key, because that's convenient. You'll see that it changed as I put that. And now if I come out the menu, I'm just pressing the divide key now, it's showing me the menus are different sizes. Now, one of the other things that happens is it may be that it's not just the menus you want to move around, maybe it's just the whole screen that you need to see something on the edge of, perhaps a movie's playing. There's a couple of ways to get around that. The first one is, it's been referred to as movie mode, but really it's just zooming out. What you can do here is just hit the Control and minus key. So if I put on the credits, which I know is a movie, even that's smaller, if that was larger, if this is a movie, I want to see it. If I hit the Control and the minus key on the numpad, it automatically zooms out. From the ref's point of view, I get obviously black all the way around it, but I can usually then watch the movie no problem at all. If I then go Control and the plus key, I'm zoomed back into the distortion scale, the zoom level, which I initially set. The other way I can do that is by pressing the Control key and using the mouse wheel. And what that does is it just zooms out as much as I scroll. So if your preference is you just want to get it to exactly the right level so it feels just about your field of view, you can do that, watch the movie, scroll in again, or you can press the Control and plus to get back to your default one. So that, again, it really is only something I use with movies. There's not a lot of reasons I use it otherwise, unless there just happens to be a section in the game where I want to see everything on the screen. I'm not too worried about being completely immersed in it. So that's that. The other way, let's get out of these credits. The other way I can use it, especially if there's a lot of information on the screen, is to use the disconnected screen view. If I'm in the options menu here, I want to go to the key bindings, I want to go through here. It's not necessarily ideal to read, maybe it's a bit strange, maybe it's out of your field of view. What I can hit here is the middle mouse button, and that's going to scroll out, quite similar to the movie mode, but it also reacts to head tracking. So if I move my head to the left or to the right, you can see I can actually view the edges of the screen. So if I've got a menu, it's got lots of information on, I can just look at that and do what I need to do. This will also react to positional tracking, so if I move my head towards the screen, it's going to zoom in as I do that. If I move my head out, it's going to zoom out. Once I'm finished what I'm doing, I just press the middle mouse key and I'm back in again. This is another one which I would say skipping between the various HUD sizes and also the disconnected screen view is the thing I do most of all in the game as I'm playing. So again, we actually do have a hotkey which you can set, which again can be the gamepad. So if I go to Control and Q down to my overall settings, I can set the disconnected screen view. As you can see, I've already got it set as the gamepad right thumb. So if I press the right shift key, that's asking me for it. If I were to press the right mouse, it's then taking that in. Oops, let's do that again. Right thumb. There we go. If I exit out the menu, if I'm just clicking the right thumb now, in and out of disconnected screen view. If you're doing things to the gamepad, more likely than the keypad, you're going to find buttons which are used for other things. So you just want to make sure whatever you're mapping it to isn't like throwing a grenade in game or something like that, else that could get old quite quickly. What I tend to do is just check and then look at the key bindings. and just make sure nothing else, or I could set the key binding to something else. Generally it's something on the numpad or one of the thumb clicks. Okay, that's about it for this video. I will come back where we'll look at VR boost scanning in game and also positional tracking.